Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. It's halfway through the day and I've been down the allotment all morning and my camera has had an absolute mare. It just lost hours of footage from this morning. One of those things, but I'm going to catch you up on what I've been doing because I've been busy this morning. It is freezing cold. Like, it is the coldest day I've had on the allotment in a very, very long time. And it's weird because it's only about 3 degrees. Nothing is frozen. You know, I've had a lot of frosty videos up here, but it's been really pleasant to work in. Whereas today it's like 2 degrees and it feels freezing. Absolutely like grim. So I've had to keep working today. Basically, I've been really, really busy. And the first thing I've just finished is emptying the hot composter. So, well, yes, I've also put in a layer of cardboard, but this has all been emptied. It looked pretty good. As I got right to the bottom, it was like sopping wet, like completely waterlogged, and not that big a surprise because, you know, that's where water's going to end up. But all things considered, I mean, if you missed it, I did a bit of kind of like a first experience review with the Hotbin in my last video. And I do think the main issue has been user error. All things considered, like I say, some of the compost that has come out of there is really, really good. The only issue is that it's got a little bit too wet. And one of the reasons I've just filled this with the cardboard, I want to find out if rain is getting in and making it even wetter, or if it is just user error and I've put way too many greens in and not enough browns. Now, all of that compost has gone into the polytunnel. I'm really hoping my camera doesn't completely break again today, fingers crossed. But it's all gone on here and I've given it a good rake over as well. So it's a really, really thick mulch. This is probably around 350 litres, something like that. I think the Hotbin can hold like 460. So this is a lot of very, very thick mulch. You can see it's gone onto a bed of this kind of stuff that I've just chopped off the peppers and the tomatoes and left to rot down. It's only January, but it's not rotting down very quick. So it remains to be seen how that will go. I think it will be fine though, because the idea is the richness will fall through. This is no dig, you know, this is kind of no dig. I've just cut and dropped a load of the vegetation, and then the main input for this year for the polytunnel is just going to be this homemade compost out of the hot composter. And I think it looks pretty good. It's just very wet, like I say. There were a few piles in here that had been on here since last week. They hadn't really dried out that much, but they are looking good. This bit looks really nice, actually. I have also lugged a load more silver grow in today. I thought 6 bags would be enough for the season. I mainly just use it for seedlings and then a little bit for my chilies. But I've just got the green stalk, and this is mostly to fill up the green stalk. I really, with something I've learned after many, many years on the allotment is if you've got the chance to start with a blank slate on something like a green stalk, which is a big self-watering planter I've got, you just, if you can, fill it with the good stuff. You know, it's the same with raised beds. Don't scrimp and save. We did it just a few weeks ago. We bought some super grow compost. Jess needed some for just starting some little stuff in the back garden, and it was awful, and everything we planted in it has died. And yeah, it was cheap. It was like half the price of what you pay for silver grow, but it was you know, it's a complete waste of time and money. Maybe it would be okay as a mulch, but definitely not what it's sold as, you know, compost for growing. Spoken for a long time about compost and my experiences with that, and I do rate silver grow. So for something like a green stalk, I just did not want to risk having to fill the whole thing up, have a bad experience, and then empty it all out, chuck it on the beds, and then fill it with something good. You know, just start with something good if you can. I can thank you to all the patrons. That is why I can, basically. In here, some exciting developments. We've just got the garlic starting to poke up. A little bit tricky to see, but we've got a few little shoots. Any elephant garlic in here? No? Okay. Got a little bit of elephant garlic there. That's a weed. Don't look at that. That one though. Nice. This is a little bit weird. Look at those strange patches of mould. I don't know what that is about or where that's come from. Slightly strange. Just good. You know, if you see mould on your soil, just think, fantastic. Soil life, microbes and fungi breaking it down. So there we go. That's quite a few hours work in, I don't know, 5 minutes. So the next job for me is basically more shifting. It's kind of what I was doing last week, really. We've got the Hotbin empty, and now I want to start filling up the raised beds with all the lovely topsoil and mushroom compost that was sent to me very kindly by Grown Local. Now, I've spoken for a little while in the last few videos about kind of plot 1 and plot 2, let me explain a little bit what I mean, just in case you're a bit of a new viewer or, I just don't make much sense. I tend to dart around, between lots of different jobs, and maybe it's not always clear what I'm talking about. So I've got two main methods of bed prep this year, and I'm treating plot 1. I call this plot 1 with the greenhouses and the shed. And I've got 5 big beds in here, then a little bed next to the greenhouse there that I call the greenhouse bed, confusingly, even though it's not in the greenhouse, and then that one which I call the L bed. Now, the idea with these, I put these little beds in, I think winter last year, I think they've had a year, and the idea is these aren't raised beds, they're just borders, really. So the idea was that the soil wouldn't come up, but actually as I've mulched and as I've put stuff on, it is now kind of at the point where they're acting a little bit more like a raised bed, but they're only short. They're only these kind of little decking boards. I don't think they're going to have much life in them, but they were super, super cheap and super easy to replace. Now, I was sent 2 products by Grown Local. We've got spent mushroom compost and topsoil. I've got them up here. He really wanted to help me out with all the problems I was having last year with my soil texture. And this is the spent mushroom compost. It looks absolutely incredible, really nice. It's a mixture of kind of well-rotted horse manure and a load of other good stuff that they use for mushroom farms, basically. And then once they've grown it, they sell it as a byproduct. And then we've got a topsoil mix. Now this too is kind of designed for veg growing, but I'm going to use these 2 products in slightly different ways. So the main issue I had last year was soil texture. These beds in particular turned to concrete. So what I want to do is a bit of a mixture of bed prep methods. All of these have had a bit of mushroom compost on the top because I had to move so much and I just had to get the material somewhere. Now on a few of these, I'm going to dig it into the surface, just lightly, not like a full dig, but instead of treating it like a no dig, I'm going to try and get it mixed into that soil so it breaks up the clay that I'm on a little bit. And I think the ones that I'm going to dig, putting this on video because I know I'll forget, I want to dig this one in, maybe do this one no dig, maybe dig this one in a little bit, and then maybe do no dig, and then maybe dig again, just like that. And it's not going to be full on digging all the way a fork's depth, but just maybe half a fork's depth, just kind of turning it over lightly. This one over here, the L bed, now this has had a winter digging. Basically, I put a load of well-rotted horse manure in here, about 3 or 4 80-litre bags, because this was one of the worst beds last year. Every single thing I put in here, I had squashes, courgettes, beans, everything died. Everything just didn't grow, basically. It just sat there, just kind of went, ugh, and did nothing, and then got eaten by slugs. So really, really bad year for this bed in particular. Lots of other beds did that as well, to be fair, but this was, 100% failure rate, pretty much. And so I don't want to put a load more mushroom compost on here. I want to see how digging in the well-rotted manure kind of goes. Now let's talk about plot 2, because I kind of divide them. I still call them plot 1 and plot 2, even though they're linked together. So this is plot 2 with the polytunnel and the raised beds. Now this one I've only had for about 1.5 years, and when I took it on, just nothing grew. Planted quite a few things in the ground, and similar to the L bed, it just sat there. And it was a tough growing year, but compared to some of my other beds, the entire plot just performed terribly. So for this one, I've gone for the full scaffolding board raised beds, and the idea is to build up the material. I don't want to be growing in soil. I want to be growing in well-rotted manure, organic matter, compost, good stuff. This one is a good example of one that I've filled up. This is my asparagus bed. Bit mucky at the moment, obviously a bit messy, but this is all a mixture of compost and well-rotted manure. And I'm hoping next year we're going to get a really good showing for the asparagus. These 3 beds we're having really good progress on. This I emptied almost an entire pallet bay of compost into, and you can see it is absolutely overflowing. It'll be a bit more reasonable once I've harvested in there and raked it out. But these ones where we've got a lot of mulch that I put down, a lot of horse manure already, we're starting to get built up. I think this is going to be a better fit for the topsoil to grow into, and these are going to be no dig. I don't need to dig in to the soil here. The idea is we're just raising up the surface. Then over here we've got the pallet collars. I'm not sure how much life these have got left in them. I filled these 2 with some homemade compost the other day, and maybe we'll put some topsoil in here as well, top them up. But there we go, hopefully a little bit of a more useful guide of what I mean when I'm talking about plot 2 and plot 1 and my different plans for bed prep this season. I've also got a load of something in a bag here. I've no idea what that is. What are you exactly? I thought maybe you were just soil, but this looks quite nice actually. I think this might be leftover mushroom compost or leftover topsoil. I'm not really sure. Might be from my homemade bays. I don't know. It looks good enough to put on somewhere though. So it's time for me to get started. I'm going to do the opposite of what I just said. Once again, saying this for posterity. If it's on the video, I'll be able to find out what I did, because I know I'll forget. I've already got the dug bed in the L bed there, so I'm going to alternate. And this one is going to be no dig, then no dig, then dig, etc. So this one, I'm going to just put a bit more of the mushroom compost on here. I think it will be nice enough, and I don't see any reason why. You know, it's only January. We're going to be not growing in here for probably another 3 months. You know, March, April is when I'll first start to plant out. And I don't see any reason why this spent mushroom compost won't start to break down, be incorporated in the same way that anything would with the no-dig approach. And actually having the nice surface on the top to plant into will hopefully solve my biggest issue, which last year was just the time it took for me to actually get things into the soil that had set like concrete. So I am absolutely freezing. Let me get barrowing, no dig, mushroom compost. That's how we'll start. This spent mushroom compost really is like just incredible to look at. It's so nice, so dark, and you can see all the mycelial activity, all these little white spots where the fungi are breaking it down. Just looks like the most wonderful texture. And thanks to the kindness of Growing Local, I really do not need to be stingy with the mulch this year. I think in previous years maybe I have been a little bit stingy. This year I'm just going all out, trying to give the beds everything they need to get that texture improved. Slightly unorthodox way of getting the material to the bed, but this is the kind of leftovers. Good Lord. Oh, this is just amazing. Feels like you're treating the bed, you know, really giving it what it wants. It's just very, 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 very satisfying. From what I've seen so far, this mushroom compost looks really nice and weed-free. Not seen anything germinating in it yet, although it is, of course, winter. This is super thick. Like I say, not scrimping or saving with this stuff. I've got plenty of it. And before this arrived, I bought 50 bags of horse manure as well. So a lot of those have already gone on these beds. Just needs a little bit more at these edges. If you're wondering what this structure is, by the way, that I'm working around, it is a bed frame that I found in a skip. But it's perfect as a pea structure. Peas love to grow up that kind of square mesh structure. Peas and beans. Right, there we go. That looks really, really nice. Now the next one is where it gets slightly controversial. Now I say it gets controversial, but I actually don't think that's true, right? I've been making videos for 4 years. I've spoken lots about the benefits and drawbacks of no dig versus digging. And not once have I ever had anyone get angry. You know, no dig gets this bit of it's got a bit of a reputation as being a bit like cultish or dogmatic. You know, it's got followers that will tell you off if you ever advocate for something else. And I've never experienced it. You know, I think actually most gardeners are pretty reasonable. They see the benefits and the drawbacks to these kind of things. They've seen me struggling with my soil and no dig not really working for me. And everyone has always said, yeah, sometimes on clay, it's better to start off digging. So this has already had a really good mulch with mushroom compost, and I'm just going to get in and turn it over a little bit, try and mix it in. Let me show you a close-up. This is some good information for kind of new gardeners as well, about the difference between compost and soil. Now, you can see immediately in here the grey clay that I have beneath this lovely dark mulch. We've got this grey clay, and that is the difference. Loads of worms in there, which is a really good sign. But the difference between soil and organic matter is basically that soil is kind of like inert. It's more like minerals and the mixture of clay, loam and sand that makes up soil. And then you've got organic matter like this, which is stuff that's basically, I mean, I'm using very crude language, but this stuff is full of life. It's going to have nutrients in it, it's going to have humus, it's going to feed the biology, the bacteria in your soil, the worms and all that kind of stuff. And most importantly, it's going to make it easier. If you've got hard clay like me, it's going to make it easier for plant roots to get in, and it's going to make it easier for you when it comes time to make a hole and plant your plants out. It's not going to be this rock solid clay. And I'm hoping if I can get in here with the fork, mix this mulch in, it's going to mean it's all nicer, lighter and fluffier come the following season. And you can see I'm not going in far at all, maybe just kind of 2 or 3 inches, really just breaking it up, mixing in this mulch, and then I think I'm going to come in with a little bit of a top dressing, just a little bit of sweetening, get that mulch in the bed again, and hopefully this will do it. This was a very compacted clay bed last year as well. I remember trying to plant my beans in here was absolute agony. It took hours and hours. Oh, okay, that's some pretty heavy work, even with only going in a little bit. With clay, it's so heavy. It's quite hard work. One thing I should say as well is you don't want to do this. You do not want to dig clay if it's really wet or if it's raining. We've had quite a few dry days, and thankfully it's fine to work basically. But if you do work clay when it's sopping wet, it has the habit of basically compacting, becoming even worse than if you'd done nothing at all. But I realised in the shed I've got this Wolfgarten soil miller, which I think will just be perfect for kind of integrating these big blocks of clay like this that come up. I think this is quite a small one, but getting that with these little front prongs breaks it up really, really nicely, and it's just going to mean that it all integrates, and we've got this organic matter and mulch being worked in with the clay together. I mean, afterwards, this is going to look worse than a nice no-dig mulch. It's not going to look great. It's probably going to be quite weedy as well. This is the downside to digging. We're disturbing the seed bank in the soil. So all those weeds, all those seeds that have been buried for years can start to germinate, but hopefully we'll have good texture. And because of the potential downsides of digging, that's one of the reasons that I'm only doing some of the beds, not all of them. Some I'm going to keep no dig. But there's a really nice big chunk just getting worked in to the soil, and this is very therapeutic. This is quite nice. So there you go. You've seen the techniques, the no dig and the light digging that I'm doing to kind of try and work this in. I'm going to get going with the rest of the beds. Wish me luck. This is some good honest work. This is. Keep you fit. Can I help you, sir? They're going to come and dig in my beds. Right then, folks, last one, all done. I have moved so much material today. My back is feeling it. I am feeling absolutely pooped, but one of the best jobs, like getting this stuff done now and thinking about, it starts to get you thinking about spring. It's so exciting. This is one that I've dug in and I've left the rest of the no-dig ones just piled on. I just need to go across now and rake those up. You can see I've changed the plan yet again. It's not indecision, it's adaptation. I'm an adaptive gardener, let's say that. But this one, it just looked so nice. It had such a nice no-dig surface, and I dug in a little bit and could see it was just starting to get incorporated. So that one I'm going to keep no-dig, and that one, look at that. Oh, doesn't it look good? Unfortunately, hardware is not on my side today. My camera, my microphone, everything is about to run out of battery. I've had a few mishaps, so I'm going to say thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully, join me again next time, and I can show you this all looking a bit neater and tidier and finished. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper tier patrons, Tony, Bill, Pam, Mel, Mike. For once, that wasn't me getting it wrong, the camera. I've got spare camera batteries, but I don't have spare microphone batteries. And this, sometimes it's really temperamental and it doesn't turn off. So all the battery is gone. But Tony, Bill, Pam, Mel, Michael, Socks, Dorcas or Louise, Andre, Brett, Tom and Amber. Thank you ever so much for your ongoing support, and to all of the patrons. Oh, well, I'm very frantic, and thank you ever so much, folks.